Good afternoon to all of you, Honorable Chair, Co-Chair, and co-speakers, and all the dignitaries. Today my talk is on decarbonization and environmental management. So we all know what is decarbonization. Decarbonization mainly involves the reducing the carbon intensity. And if we reduce the carbon intensity, then thereby there will be a reduction in the lowering of the amount of the greenhouse gases emissions which are produced by the fossil fuels. So reducing the amount of the carbon dioxide will be the result of the transportation and the power generation. And these, both these aspects, they are very much with the Paris Agreement, which was set by to meet the global temperature by the Paris Agreement. Then how this decarbonization work? So this is the main target of the Paris Agreement, that how we move towards the decarbonization. First, very important is the utilization of the renewable energy resources. And when we go for the renewable energy resources, India is a tropical country, and we have a huge amount of the solar energy, wind energy. We are very lucky to have both these renewable energy resources in our country. So the use of the carbon power can be reduced by the maximum amount of the utilization of the electrical vehicles as a cleaner technology. Why it is so important? Why we are talking of decarbonization? The main aim is to achieve the Paris Agreement, whose goal is to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So for achieving the Paris Agreement, we have to mainly concentrate upon energy, transportation, and other systems which are mainly decarbonized to get net zero by 2050. And now we have started the work for shifting from non-renewable resources to renewable resources. That is coal, petrol, all these are the non-renewable resources, and we are moving towards the renewable resources, so that the amount of the release of the carbon dioxide, that may be either captured or that may be captured and stored in some area where it cannot be in the atmosphere. So we have many areas like that. We will talk in the coming slides. So the world is not on track of meet the Paris Agreement, Paris target of limiting the global warming to 1.5 degree. But the current policies, we are implying more than 3 degree warming by the end of the century. And this is a very disaster for the India, because we are the most affected. The IPC has already estimated to achieve the 1.5 degree centigrade target. The world as a whole must reach to net zero emission of the carbon dioxide by 2050. COP26 in Glasgow mainly focus on the ratchet for the emission reduction commitments, and several countries like US, United States, European Union, Japan, Korea, and many other developing countries like Brazil and South Africa, they have adopted to reach the net zero by 2050. China is aiming for 2060. Then what is the status of India? What we are doing? This slide shows the various patterns of changes in the temperature and the precipitation, and this how the climate is changing with respect to the increase in the level of the greenhouse gases, and thereby the global warming. We have four main systems which are mainly affected: warm water currents, small-scale low-latitude fisheries, Arctic regions, and coastal floodings. These are the main reasons which are affected by the greenhouse gas emissions. The maximum share of the greenhouse gases emission in India is given by the energy and industries. Second is by the manufacturing industries and the construction, that is 19%. Transportation contributes to 13%. Other sectors contributes to 10%, and vegetative emissions contributes only 2%. So we have to work mainly on the energy and industries, manufacturing industries and constructions. These are the main targets of us. Can we reduce emissions with the growth, with the development? Yes, we can reduce the emissions with the development, but we have to focus on 3 fronts. What are these fronts? The number 1 is the raising the energy efficiency to reduce the total energy requirement of GDP. Second is switching from the fossil fuel to electricity wherever possible, combined with generating electricity from renewable resources. Electrification alone cannot work. So we have to switch on the hydrogen energy also, because electricity is not the sole purpose. Third, very important, is the removing emissions from the atmosphere. That is, carbon dioxide is the main gas which is harming. So we have to take care of unavoidable uses of the fossil fuel where electrification is not possible. Now, what are the scopes of emission reductions in India? We have studied, many agencies have studied for this, like TERI, IEA, BP, CEW studies. And it has been found that model of 6% growth rate of GDP and net zero by 2070 is the outcome of the studies. We all say that we must go for net zero. What does it mean? It refers to carbon neutrality. And what is carbon neutrality? It does not mean that we have to bring down the emission to 0. Rather, it is a gross 0. So basically, net zero is a state where the country emissions are compensated by absorption and removal. So we have to emphasize on the absorption as well as removal. We have to find out the technology which will absorb maximum amount of the carbon dioxide and removal of the carbon dioxide, thereby also the greenhouse gases. India is working very well in this net zero emission. Like we have started one campaign, EV30 at the rate 30, thereby meaning that 30% of the we have 30% of the electrical vehicle on the road by 2030. This is one of the best campaign which is being started by the India. The second is Panchamrit, which our Honorable Prime Minister have announced in the COP26 in Glasgow recently, and we will achieve the net zero carbon emission by 2070. This is the electrical vehicle India policy roadmap. It has been started from 2010, then in 12, 13, 15, and 19, we have a different roadmap for the electrical vehicles. But what are the objections? The main objection for this, that with the emissions, we are likely to grow at the fastest pace in the world, but it simultaneously presses for higher growth to pull hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Second is, afforestation and reforestation will not be the solution. It will not be able to compensate for the increased emission. And third one is most of the carbon removal technology right now are either unreliable or very expensive. So fund is the main problem for us. So we have to face all these 3 challenges. These are the main challenges for India to reach the net zero emission. Our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, make 5 pledges. Number 1, India will increase its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030. India will meet 50% of its energy requirement from renewable energy by 2030. India will reduce the carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now to 2030, and India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by 45%. And fifth one is, by 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. Now, what is the contribution of India towards the net zero emission? Number 1 target is for renewable energy. We have started from the 175 gigawatt by 2022, and it was declared at Paris also, and 250 gigawatt by 2030 at the United Nations Climate Summit. And now we have planning for 500 gigawatt by 2030, and it was announced in Glasgow. India has also announced for the target of 50% power generation. India has also announced for hydrogen energy mission for gray and green, because now we are working on brown hydrogen. So we are trying to shifting towards the gray and green. Now we will discuss what is the difference between gray, green, brown, we have blue, we have different kinds of the hydrogen we will discuss. And the energy efficiency market-based scheme is also, we have started, in which we have planned for perform, achieve, and trade, PET. So it has avoided 92 million tons of the carbon dioxide equivalent emissions during the first and the second cycles. In 2021, we have a forum for decarbonizing the transport. And second is the Indian Railway has also announced for this. Third is the FAME scheme, which was launched as a part of the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, whose main thrust is to encourage electrical vehicles by providing the subsidies. And under the PLI scheme, we have approved the 18,000 crore for the development of the storage and battery storage manufacturing. These incentives mainly encourages the indigenous development of EVs. This is how we can produce the green hydrogen with the help of the solar energy and the wind energy, because India is very much have an enormous amount of the solar energy and wind energy. So with the help of the electrolysis, we generate the hydrogen and transport it where it is required. These are the 5 kinds of the hydrogen generation. One is brown, another is gray, blue, turquoise, and green. Brown kind of the hydrogen starts from the coal, gray for the natural gas, blue for the any non-renewable energy. So it may be coal, it may be natural gas, it may be oil, whatever it is. Turquoise is from the source is methane, and for the green, any renewable resources, may be solar energy, may be wind energy, may be hydro energy, it may be. And the process for, all are having the different process. For brown, we go for gasification. For gray, we go for steam methane reformation. Blue, same steam methane reformation. For turquoise, we go for pyrolysis. And for green, we are for electrolysis of water. Which is having the highest greenhouse gas emission? That is the brown, which is generated from the coal. And which is having the lowest greenhouse gas emission? That is green. So that is why India is planning for green hydrogen generation. And acceptance level is also very high of green hydrogen. What are the steps we needed to achieve the net zero emission? The first step is the transitions from the non-renewable resources to renewable resources, and India has installed for that the solar power capacity, which will increase to over 5,600 gigawatts to achieve net zero by 2070. The use of coal for the power generation must be dropped by 99% by 2060, and India will achieve by 2070 this. The consumption of crude oil may be dropped by 90% by 2050 and 2070. Green hydrogen production will go up to 19%, and decarbonizing the road transportation, that will be you can say reached to the target by 2050. These are the 5 Amrit Tattva, which was given by our Honorable Prime Minister in Glasgow, COP26. The first is the India will bring its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030. Second is the India will fulfill 50% of its energy requirement through the renewable energy resources. Third is India will cut down its carbon emission by 1 billion ton by 2030. Fourth is India will bring down carbon intensity of its economy by more than 45%. And fifth is India will achieve the target of net zero emission by 2070. This is a very good slide which is showing, can we phase out coal-based electricity? Yes, we can phase out. Because it has been clearly shown in this slide that the orange color, it is showing that up to 2070, we will have only 4.6 gigatons of the coal emissions, committed emissions from the coal-based plants. So we can reach up to this phasing of the coal-based. This slide shows us 3 primary methods for reducing the carbon dioxide in atmosphere. Number 1, energy efficiency practices, carbon-free energy resources, and third one is capturing and storing of the carbon from the atmosphere. These are very important or primary method for reducing the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. These are the renewable energy resources which are we can use for the energy: wind energy, solar energy, hydro energy, geothermal energy, and biomass energy. In this, what we can do for the reduction of carbon dioxide emissions, we can have the sources of energy which are associated impacts, but in general, these technologies, they generate energy without producing and emitting carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Third option for this reducing carbon...
wrap up.
Okay. Is the carbon sequestration. For carbon sequestration, we can have 3 kinds of the technology. One is ocean, second is geological, third is terrestrial. In ocean sequestration, we take the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and by means of the injecting to the lower layer of the Earth's oceanic bottom, we can inject the carbon dioxide. In geological, we catch the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and inject through the pipelines into the geological formations, and same for the terrestrial sequestration. And another important aspect is BCC, which stands for bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. It is also the same technique. It is known as geoengineering technique, which can be, this is showing the geoengineering technique. In this, we capture the carbon dioxide, and by means of the piping to the reservoirs, we can divert the carbon dioxide into the lower layer, because these aquifers, they are impermeable in nature, and no amount of the carbon dioxide can come up. So this is another carbon dioxide, how the oceanic, from the oceans we can, from the atmosphere, we can catch the carbon dioxide and divert to the bottom layer of the oceans. This is another slide which is showing, this is the sustainable conversion of the carbon dioxide. We can have the carbon dioxide from the industries, and then we go for CRI, then for the green methanol is produced. This is another very good technology, which is known as green synthesis of the plastic from the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide and this biomass, they are combined with in the presence of the catalyst. They will give you the polycarbonate dyes and different kinds of the accessories, which are very important and usable. This is another how the carbon dioxide can be utilized with the help of the renewable energy and the electrolyzer, and we get a number of end product in the form of resins, plastic, and the pharmaceuticals. This is very good technology by which we can combine the green technology and the biogenic carbon dioxide to create the methanol, which can be utilized as a fuel in the transportation or in the shipment. This is another how we can convert the carbon dioxide with the help of the renewable energy resources for green hydrogen or the derivatives of the green methanol, ammonia, etc. This is another technology. Very important, that is unlocking the potential of artificial intelligence for decarbonization. So this is also very important in this digitalization, and the smart grid and the smart meters are the important component for this, and these are the different companies who have given the software for acceleration and the adoption of the increased use of the renewable energy. Now comes to the environmental management. Environmental management is a very well-known aspect in terms of air, water, soil. So we have a general scheme. First is identification, second is a proper action plan, third is implementation and evaluation, fourth is monitoring and management, and fifth, very important, that is future environmental management and planning. So this is another very good slide which is showing how the solid waste, municipal solid waste, can be utilized into different kinds of the end product, like metals and materials we get, and by recycling and recovering, we can get again the metals which are not in usable form, and we are getting the heat and electricity also. So number of end products we are getting if we go for this kind of the process. This is also where the natural gas, coal may be also utilized for the production of syngas, and then ultimately we can get the diesel, jet fuel, and other products. So these are another environmental management trends: impact assessment, planning, environmental liability and cleanup, sustainability and regulatory clearance. Significance of the environmental management is that to prevent and solve the environmental problem, to establish the limits, to develop the research institution and monitoring system, to warn the threats and identify opportunity, to suggest measures for resource conservation, to develop the strategy for improvement of quality, and to identify new technology for future.
Professor, please.
Number of initiatives have been taken by MOEF, CPCB. These are the environmental initiatives in India, national environmental policies, global initiatives. These are global initiatives. In case of education system, we create a lot of awareness about the environmental management. These are United Nations environmental programs. And Indian Green Building Council is a new concept for us. And in this, we have primary ranking in India, GRIHA and IGBC for the green construction. So green building are coming up. Scopes of environmental management mainly for awareness, Greenpeace movement, advancement, the field of science and technology, and broader scopes of environmental management is identification, regulation, regeneration, control, reduction, optimum utilization, and significance is the last for the environmental management, in which we go for prevention and solution, develop research and monitoring, warn threats and identify opportunity, to suggest measures for long-term, short-term sustainable developments, and develop a strategy to solve the environmental issues. Thank you.